More to tell. Chapter 2. Bryn. I pause and let my words sink in, keeping my eyes on the photo of Mr. Larkin. He's wearing his signature lemon tie, its bright colored muted in the black and white photo. I asked him once why he liked it, and he told me it reminded him of his favorite motto. When life gives you lemon, make lemon cake. That's not the saying, I told him, feeling a small thrill that I knew more than a teacher. It's lemonade. Yeah, but I hate lemonade, he said with a shrug, and I love cake. Carly crosses her legs and taps the toe of her shoe against the table before reaching for her laptop. You said this is unsolved? She asked. My pulse picked up to show interest. For the most part, yeah. Her eyebrows raised. That's usually a yes or no question. Well, the theory is that a drifter killed him, I explained. There's a guy who started hanging around downtown a few weeks before Mr. Larkin died, swearing and yelling at people. Nobody knew who or what he was going on with him. Nobody knew who he was or what was going on with him. One day he came by St. Ambrose and started screaming at kids during recess, so Mr. Larkin called the police and they arrested him. He spent a few days in jail and Mr. Larkin died almost right after he got out. I smelled a wrinkle at the edge of the clipping. The guy disappeared after that, so people think he killed Mr. Larkin in retaliation and took off. That's a tidy resolution, Carly says. You don't believe it? I used to, I admit. When I was in eighth grade, it made the kind of sense I needed. The notion of a violent stranger passing through town was almost comforting, in an odd way. Because it meant the danger was gone, and the danger wasn't us, my town, my neighbors, the people I'd known for most of my life. I thought a lot about Mr. Larkin's death over the years, but somehow I never applied a journalistic lens until I binged a season of Murder to prepare for my interview. As I watched Carly methodically break down flimsy alibis and half-baked theories, all I could think was, nobody ever did that for Mr. Larkin. And then it hit me, finally, that I could. But I've been thinking a lot about it since I moved back to Sturgis, I continued, and it feels too, well, just what you said, tidy. Indeed. Carly is quiet for a few beats while she taps her keyboard. I don't see much media coverage on this, just your local paper and a few brief mentions in the Boston Globe. Latest story was in May, a few weeks after he died. She squints at the screen and reads, Close-knit school rocked by teacher's death. They didn't even call it a murder. My friends and I rolled our eyes at close-knit back then. Even though St. Ambrose's motto is literally stronger together, St. Ambrose runs from kindergarten through 12th grade, so that theoretically students can be stronger together right up until college. St. Ambrose is a strange kind of private school, though. It charges tens of thousands of dollars in tuition, but it's located in a rundown, unglamorous Sturgis. Every smart local kid applies in hopes of getting their tuition covered by scholarships so they can avoid the low-ranked Sturgis school system, but it's not prestigious enough for people who have their pick of private schools. So the paying kids tend to be lackluster students, which creates a have-not rift that many students crossed when I was there. In middle school, before Dad got the big promotion that sent us to Chicago, Ellie and I were scholarship students. Now we can afford tuition. My parents wouldn't hear of us going to Sturgis High instead, so we'll be heading back to St. Ambrose in a few weeks. Stronger together. Yeah, I never got picked up anywhere else. I'm not sure why, I said. Carly is still glazing at her screen. Me either. This is a true crime catnip. Fancy prep school, handsome young teacher murdered, his body found by a trio of rich kids. She taps that is student's time photo. Including your buddy. What's his name? Noah Talbot? Trip, I say. He goes by Trip, and he's not rich. Or my buddy. Carly blinks. You're telling me a kid named Trip Talbot isn't rich? It's because he's the third Noah in his family, I explained. His dad's Junior and he's Trip, like the triple. He's a scholarship kid like I used to be. What about the other kids? Carly's eyes return to her screen as she scrolls. I don't see any names here, although that's not surprising given their ages at the time. Shane Delago and Charlotte Holbrook, I say. Were they scholarship students too? Definitely not. Shane was the richest kid at St. Ambrose, probably, I say. In fourth grade, when we did family trees, Shane told us that his parents had adopted him from the foster system when he was a toddler. I used to try to imagine what that must have been like, going through life of uncertainty to one of total luxury. Shane was so young, though, that he probably didn't even remember. And Charlotte was... I'm not sure how to describe Charlotte. Wealthy? Yes. Almost shockingly beautiful for a 13-year-old girl? But my strongest memory of Charlotte is how infatuated she used to be with Shane, who never seemed to notice. That doesn't feel like the right kind of detail to share, though. So all I say is, also rich. So what's their story? Carly asked. The 3 kids, I mean. Why were they in the woods that day? They were collecting leaves for a science project, I say. Trip with Shane's partner and Charlotte. Charlotte pretty much went wherever Shane was. Who is Charlotte's partner? Carly asks. Me, I say. You? Her eyes widen. But you weren't with them. I shake my head and she asks, why not? I was busy. But I shred to the photo, taking in Tripp's 13-year-old self, all skinny limbs, braces, too short blonde hair. When I learned that I'd be moving back to Sturgis, curiosity got the best of me. I looked him up on social media and was shocked to see an epic glow up since I saw him last. He's tall and broad-shouldered, and the hair that always used to be in a crew cut is longer and attractively tousled, framing bright blue eyes that were always his best feature. The braces are off, and his smile is wide and confident. No, cocky. I decided Tripp Talbot got unfairly and undeservedly hot, and worst of all, he knows it. All which I added to my list of reasons to dislike him. Too busy to do your homework? Carly asks. I'm finishing a story for the school paper. I say, it's true. Back then I was always finishing a story. The St. Ambrose Sentinel, our middle school paper, had become my life, and I worked there most afternoons. Still, I couldn't make time for the leaf gathering excursion, but I didn't, because I knew Tripp would be there. We used to be friends, in fact. Between 6th and 8th grade, we were in and out of one another's houses so much his dad used to joke about adopting me, and my parents made a habit of stocking up on Tripp's favorite snacks. We had all the same classes and a friendly competition for grades. Then the day before Mr. Larkin died, Tripp loudly told me in front of our entire gym class to stop following him around and asking him to be my boyfriend. When I laughed, thinking he had been joking, he called me a stalker. Even now, my skin crawls with remembered humiliation. How awful it felt to have my classmates sticker while Coach Mears tried to defuse the situation, and worst thing was, I had no idea why Tripp had said that. I met at his house doing homework just the day before, and we had gotten along fine. There was nothing I'd said or done that could have misinterpreted. I hadn't so much as flirted with him, ever. The thought had never crossed my mind. After Charlotte, Shane, and Tripp found Mr. Larkin, there was something strangely glamorous about the three of them. As though they'd aged a decade in the woods that day and knew things the rest of us couldn't possibly understand. Tripp, who hadn't been at all friendly with Shane and Charlotte before, was absorbed into their friend group as though he'd always been there. I never spoke to him again. People used to roll their eyes if I so much looked in his direction. Like my alleged crush was even more pathetic now that he was a semi-celebrity. It was a relief 2 months later when my dad's transfer to Chicago went through and we moved away. I'm not going to that level of detail with Carly, though. Nothing screams, I'm still in high school, louder than being mad at a boy for embarrassing you in gym class. Fascinating to think you were almost a murder witness, isn't it? Carly says. She squints at her laptop. This says there was no physical evidence left of the scene beyond fingerprints from one of the boys who picked up the murder weapon. Was that Tripp? No, that was Shane. She cocks an eyebrow. Did people think he must have done it? No, I say. I certainly didn't back then. Even though I hadn't seen Shane since 8th grade, it's so hard to imagine. Not because Shane was rich and popular, but because he'd always seemed so laid back and, well, uncomplicated. He was just a kid and got along great with Mr. Larkin. He had no reason to hurt him. Carly just nodded like she's reserving judgment on that. Did anyone? Not that I ever heard. Carly gestures at the laptop screen. This article says your teacher had been looking into recent theft at your school. Yeah, somebody stole an envelope full of money that had been raised for the 8th grade class trip to New York. It was more than $1,000, I say. That happened at the end of March, and I was excited to have annual news to report. Mr. Larkin was asked to lead the internal St. Ambrose investigation, so I interviewed him almost daily. The school searched our lockers after Mr. Larkin died, and they found the envelope in Charlotte's locker. Charlotte from the woods? Carly asked, a note of incredulity creeping into her voice. Let me see if I have this straight. One of the witnesses leaves fingerprints on the murder weapon. Another took the money your teacher was looking for. And what? Nothing happens to either of them? I nod. She folds her arm. Let me tell you something. Things would have been a lot different if kids of color had been involved. I know. I hadn't considered it at the time, but I did when I thought about the case during my motive binge, the way that Tripp, Charlotte, and Shane had gotten to be kids. They weren't doubted or scrutinized or railroaded, even though nobody other than the three of them could corroborate their story. But Charlotte says she didn't know how the envelope got there. I add, I've been hoping to interview her about it, but I never got the chance. After Mr. Larkin died, all extracurricular activities were put on hold for a few weeks. When they started up again, head of our school, Mr. Griswell, told me I couldn't report on the theft anymore. The school needs to heal, he said, and I was too shell-shocked over Mr. Larkin's murder to argue. Okay, Carly leans back in her chair and spins in a slow semicircle. Congratulations, Brent Gallagher. You have officially captured my interest. I almost bounced up in my seat. So you'll cover Mr. Larkin? Carly puts up a hand. Whoa, hold up. A lot more goes in that kind of position than just this. She waves a hand at my folder and I flush suddenly, feeling naive and out of my depth. But Carly seems to know the softening her tone as she adds, but I like her instincts. This is absolutely the sort of case we consider. Plus your portfolio is solid, and don't let a few dick pics get you down. So what the hell? Why not, right? She pauses, waiting for my response, but that's not quite enough information for me to go on. Why not? What? I ask. Carly stops spinning in her chair. That was me offering you the job. Really? The word comes out like a squeak. Really, Carly confirms it, and the surge of excitement mixed with relief buzzes through my veins. It's the first good news I've had in a long time, and the first sign that maybe possibly I haven't blown my entire future. Carly glances at the calendar and the whiteboard, where the month of December is so overbooked that it's impossible to read anything from where I'm sitting. Are you in school right now, or on break? No, I mean, it's not break yet, but we only just moved back last week, so my parents figured I could start classes with the new semester in January. Great. How about you come in around 10 o'clock tomorrow morning and we'll get you started with orientation. I just nod because I don't trust myself not to squeak, and then she adds, and by all means, write up what we discussed about your teacher and I'll have one of our producers take a look when they have time. Can't hurt, right? And who knows? Carly closes her laptop and stands, signaling that my time is up for now. Maybe we'll get a story out of it.